Welcome to Pivotal People. We'd like you to meet Mei-Ling Huang. She is a partner at RWK Goodman and she supports care providers with legal issues. Welcome, Mei-Ling. Thank you so much for coming to see us at Pivotal People.
Thanks for having me.
We're really pleased to have you here to talk to us today. What I want to do is talk a little bit about what you do now, what got you there in the first place, and then to look at what you see the future. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now.
What I do now is I work at a law firm called RWK Goodman, and we have a specialist health and social care team. We've been building that team for many years, probably something like 15 years, maybe longer. And I do troubleshooting and crisis management for care providers. So I do the regulatory aspects of care, safeguarding, any kind of litigation, disputes, judicial review, getting paid, trying to get paid, just working out day-to-day problems as well. Sometimes there might be a difficult relationship with a particular family or something like that, and people need a little bit of support. And we generally act for, I would say, the sort of smaller to medium size end of the spectrum. And a lot of those providers don't necessarily have in-house lawyers. So when they have a problem, they basically give me a call and I become part of their management team.
Yeah, and I'm sure the providers out there will recognise the importance of the role that you do. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is take you right back to the beginning. To the young Mei-Ling and where you started and what got you to where you are now.
Well, I grew up in Michigan in the United States in a very small town. Quite a sort of idyllic childhood, I suppose, in some ways, because I grew up on a lake and we had the run of the neighborhood and everything was sort of dirt roads and fields and, you know, just lots of space to run around and be quite free in. It was quite a small town, you know, maybe the horizons weren't that big, but my father is actually from Malaysia. And so when I was growing up, my brother and I were growing up, we did get to go traveling a fair amount to go and see relatives in Malaysia. And we'd stop in other countries along the way and things. And that sort of opened up the world. You know, I went to the Philippines, I went to Japan, I went to Hong Kong, I went to Taiwan and all these sort of places along the way. And that sort of broadened the horizons, I think, a little bit. I then went to university nearby and got an undergraduate degree. And in America, you don't go straight for your professional degree. Usually you go for something else. So I did a degree called Asian Studies, which is a sort of interdisciplinary study of history and language and politics and all that kind of good stuff. And then after that, I went to Taiwan and studied Mandarin for a year because I wanted to learn a language better than I had.
Mandarin's supposed to be the future language of
the
world.
I don't know. It is spoken by quite a lot of people. It's the official language of China, and in a lot of other countries, it's interesting the way it's crept in places like Hong Kong. Taiwan, they speak it, of course, and Singapore, they speak it, and lots of people do know that language, so it's,
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I went to Singapore for a year and worked there, did a few different things. I worked in a restaurant, managed the bar in a restaurant, and I worked in a graphic design firm, just sort of, you know, looking around. Came back to the United States, moved to Boston, and started my legal career as a paralegal, working for a nonprofit organization that helps indigent people get representation in the courts in Boston. And then from there I went back to law school back in Michigan, got my law degree and moved back to Boston to work in a couple of law firms. Met my husband there, who's British. That's the connection with coming here. And then he got a job in Cardiff. And I followed a few years later, got a job in Bristol, and I've been there ever since. So coming up on a long time this year. Yeah.
So, care.
Care.
Yeah.
I fell into care.
You fell into care.
I fell into care.
Yeah?
Yeah, we were doing care work. We were doing care provider work, and we wanted to, you know, hone our marketing. And we thought, we need sectors, because people still do sectors. We still do sectors, but that was maybe a newer concept then. And so we realized we had care clients, and we're doing care work, and we decided to package that up. And that was the start of, and that wasn't my idea, it was somebody else completely who doesn't work with us anymore. But we decided to badge it up as the care sector, and we've been going ever since. The work grew as the sector developed. So things like the advent of CQC, for example, was a big, sharp upswing in business for us and for me. And also the judicial reviews, there were a bunch of judicial reviews, you probably remember sort of 2010, 11, 12, that period of time. I did a couple of those big cases and learned a lot about how care homes work, how the finances work, the cost model, all that kind of stuff, commissioning, cross-subsidization of care fees, all that stuff I learned inside. It was, really trial by fire for 2 hard years, slogging away at these cases. But I learned a lot, and I think it was during that time when I really got to know the sector, and it's been, building ever since, really.
So what about the trends that you're seeing? So you deal with safeguarding, you deal with CQC. What sort of trends are you seeing in care homes particularly?
Well, on the regulatory side, we're all a bit up in the air at the moment with the new single assessment framework and how that's going to bed in. Yeah. We can see what the problems are. We don't know what the resolution is going to be yet. A lot of people are making noise about that at the moment in terms of pushing for things to change in a more positive direction. I think that's really important, actually, to provide that kind of sounding board and feedback and reality check, really, for that sort of stuff. So we'll see how that plays out. That's interesting, but I would say people need to be really alive to that, and when they get something landing in their inbox that they don't understand, maybe, or can't quite square the circle, you really need to dig into that and have a good hard look at it and figure it out. So that's one challenge, I suppose. Funding, of course, is always a challenge. Absolutely. That's the age-old challenge.
I think that's getting worse as well going forward. I think you've had a 9.5% minimum wage increase and only 4.5% maximum from local authority funders, which is a challenge for
the
providers.
Squeeze continues.
Absolutely.
Really. So that's another sort of tough thing to grapple with. And then things like the reduction of awards of FNC, CHC, the rationing really of care places, nursing places, nursing beds. People are talking about that kind of stuff at the moment. So it's so you need to look at. I think what I try to do to help is smooth out some of those bumps. Looking at the financial health of your business and where you can make some marginal gains on that and get your balance sheet in better order. How to manage the regulation of your business, because everybody will hit those bumps in the road. Even the outstanding providers will get whacked every now and again.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that just needs to be managed. So I would say just being really proactive about those things can be helpful in keeping the business quite steady.
Yeah, I mean, managing the compliance of a care home is a real challenge.
It's a struggle.
And I think, that's one of the things, as you know, that we do. We do the mock CQC inspections on a regular basis, which actually maintains that compliance. I think, what you do is to be there for those providers when they need that support and need that legal support, I suppose, which is, we're turning into a bit of a suing culture. You're from the USA, and I'm sure that's been happening in the USA for many years.
A lot of pounding.
Yes,
pounding the table.
We are starting to become, what can we get out of this? Are you seeing a lot of that?
Yes. So we do data protection for companies and care providers, and there are claims companies that people use to assert a breach of their data protection rights, and the whole sort of model is based on kind of holding people to ransom. Also ransomware and hacking, we deal with all that kind of stuff as well.
Wow.
And it is that is, I mean, that's the really, really dark side,
Yeah,
I
sure,
suppose,
sure.
not just suing people, but, you know, but it is all about what can I get out of
Yeah,
this?
of course.
And you sometimes see that with, you know, familial relationships as well. It's unfortunate, but occasionally that happens. That needs to be managed. Yeah, I mean, you know, not everybody is nice all the time.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So going forward, what do you see the future for
The
for
future
the
of
industry, for the care
of
industry?
care. So what I would like to see is I would like to see some politicians who are brave and actually make the decision. You know, they always say we're going to sort it out. We're going to sort out the funding of social care. Kick the can down the road. Kick it down the road again, and then go back to the original plan and say this is what we're going to do, and then they kick it down the road again.
Yeah.
And you think, oh. So I would like to see some guts.
Yeah.
I would like to see some understanding of the sector, really understanding, because every time I, you know, talk to people about meetings with so-and-so or such and such, you know, ask departments, they always say they don't really get it. And I think that needs to change. And so the question then is, how do we go about bringing that change? And I think probably the sector needs to be more politically savvy. You know, that's we do have some very politically savvy people and some
Yes, we
very
do.
very good advocates for the sector, but I think we need more of a kind of groundswell of that in order to create this political momentum that we actually do really need. I can't predict whether that's going to actually, you know, you would think that somebody like Keir Starmer might
Who knows?
be a little bit more clued up. But yeah, it's really hard to say, isn't
Yes,
it?
we shall
Really hard to
find out
say.
at some point, no
Yeah,
doubt.
hopefully soon. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming to see us. Really appreciate talking to you.